Shedeur Sanders entered the NFL with more eyes on him than anyone. The son of Deion Sanders. The question remains, how good is Shedeur Sanders actually? The moment Shedeur Sanders stepped into the NFL, the conversation around him stopped being normal. It wasn't just about arm talent. It wasn't just about college production. And it definitely wasn't just about where he landed in the draft. No, the second Shedeur Sanders entered the league, he became one of the most polarizing rookie quarterbacks we've seen in years. And let's be honest about why. Because Shedeur Sanders wasn't just another prospect coming out of college. He was the son of Deion Sanders, one of the most iconic athletes football has ever seen, a Hall of Famer, a legend, a personality bigger than the sport itself. And when your last name carries that kind of weight, the expectations don't just rise, they explode. Before Shedeur ever threw an NFL pass, people had already made up their minds about him. Some fans believed he was destined for greatness. They looked at his poise, his confidence, his college production, and they saw the future. To them, Shedeur wasn't just good, he was the next big quarterback star waiting to happen. But on the other side, the critics were just as loud. They saw hype. They saw privilege. They saw a player who had been surrounded by attention his entire life. And they asked the question a lot of rookies never have to answer this early. Is he really that good? Or is he just famous? And once that debate started, the NFL media machine did what it always does. It poured gasoline on the fire. Every quote Shedeur gave suddenly became a headline. Every scouting report turned into a debate. Every analyst had a take. Some said his pocket presence was elite. Others said his arm strength was questionable. Some called him the most pro-ready quarterback in the class. Others said he was living off the Sanders name. And then draft night arrived. This was supposed to be the moment where the league settled the debate. The moment where the NFL showed the world exactly what it thought about Shedeur Sanders. Instead, it made the conversation even crazier. Because when his name didn't come off the board early, people started looking around in disbelief. Round 1 passed. Teams with quarterback needs made different choices. Analysts started scrambling. Fans started asking questions. Was the league seeing something the public didn't? Or were teams about to make a massive mistake? By the time Shedeur finally heard his name called, 2 completely different narratives had taken over the football world. One side said the slide proved everything. They believed NFL scouts had exposed the hype, that the league had quietly decided he wasn't as special as the spotlight made him look. But the other side? They saw something totally different. They saw a steal. They saw a quarterback who had been overlooked, disrespected, passed over by teams that might regret it later. And that's what made this situation so unique. Shedeur Sanders didn't enter the NFL as a normal rookie quarterback. He entered the league as a walking controversy. Every throw he made was going to be judged. Every mistake was going to be amplified. Every success was going to start another debate. And then came the twist that made the entire story even more unbelievable. Because Shedeur Sanders didn't land on a quiet rebuilding team with patience and stability. He landed with the Cleveland Browns, a franchise that has spent decades searching for quarterback answers. And when you drop the most talked about rookie quarterback into the most chaotic quarterback situation in football, something explosive is bound to happen. The moment Shedeur Sanders walked into the building, he didn't just join a football team. He walked straight into one of the most chaotic quarterback situations in the entire NFL. And if you know anything about the history of the Cleveland Browns, you already know why that matters. Because this isn't just another franchise trying to develop a young quarterback. This is a team that has been searching for stability at the most important position in sports for decades. Since the early 1990s, Cleveland has cycled through what feels like an endless list of starting quarterbacks. Some were highly drafted prospects. Some were veterans brought in to steady the ship. Others were emergency starters thrown into impossible situations. And almost every single one of them ended the same way, with the Browns still looking for the next answer. So imagine being Shedeur Sanders, a rookie already under a microscope stepping into that environment. Now look at the quarterback room he walked into. First, you had the veteran presence of Joe Flacco, a Super Bowl champion brought in to provide experience and stability. The message was pretty clear. Cleveland wanted someone who could manage games, avoid mistakes, and keep the offense afloat. But that wasn't the whole picture. Behind Flacco, The Browns had multiple quarterbacks battling for position, young arms trying to prove themselves, depth chart competition everywhere. And when you looked at the roster from top to bottom, one thing became obvious: there wasn't a clear, long-term plan at quarterback. This wasn't a franchise building around a young star. This was a team still trying to figure out what direction it wanted to go. And that's where the system itself became part of the story. Head coach Kevin Stefanski has always built his offenses around control. Ball security, smart decisions, limiting mistakes. His philosophy isn't about fireworks, it's about survival. Lean on the defense, run the football, and ask the quarterback to manage the game instead of dominating it. In theory, that kind of system can protect a young quarterback, but it can also hide him, because when the playbook is built around caution, you're not asking your quarterback to take risks. You're asking him to stay safe. And that's exactly what people saw when Shedeur started getting his preseason opportunities. Some analysts looked at his performances and said the same thing. This kid looks composed, calm in the pocket, smart with the football, the kind of quarterback who understands how to operate within a system. But others saw something very different. They saw a player who wasn't pushing the ball downfield, a quarterback who wasn't attacking defenses the way modern stars like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen do. They started questioning whether Shedeur had the aggressive playmaking ability that elite NFL quarterbacks need. And just like that, the debate started all over again. Was he playing smart or playing scared? Was he managing the offense or hiding inside it? But here's the brutal truth about situations like this. When a rookie quarterback enters an unstable franchise, every throw gets judged twice as hard, every mistake gets magnified, and every quiet performance gets interpreted as a weakness. Because developing a young quarterback in the NFL is already one of the hardest things in sports. But trying to do it inside a franchise that's been searching for answers for 30 years, that's a completely different battle. The criticism started long before Shedeur Sanders ever truly stepped onto an NFL field. And the crazy part is, a lot of it had nothing to do with football. It had to do with confidence. Because the moment Shedeur started speaking publicly about his belief in himself, about how he felt he could compete with the quarterbacks already playing in this league, the reaction from parts of the football world was immediate. And it was brutal. Suddenly, the labels started flying. Arrogant, entitled, immature. You heard it everywhere: sports talk shows, comment sections, podcasts, even former players weighing in. The message from the critics was basically this: who does this rookie think he is? But here's the thing that always bothered me about that narrative. When a veteran quarterback walks into a press conference and says he believes he's the best player on the field, people call it leadership. They call it swagger. They say that's the mindset you need to win championships. Think about guys like Joe Burrow or Tom Brady. These are quarterbacks who built entire reputations around confidence. They walked into locker rooms and told teammates they expected to win. They believed it. They said it out loud. And fans loved it. But when a rookie does it, suddenly it becomes a problem. Suddenly the league starts acting like confidence is a character flaw. And that's exactly the space Shedeur Sanders found himself in. Because he never pretended he didn't believe in his ability. He didn't show up acting timid. He didn't stand behind the microphone talking about just hoping to learn. No, Shedeur spoke like someone who believed he belonged. And whether people want to admit it or not, that kind of attitude makes the football world uncomfortable when it comes from a young player, especially a young player with a famous last name. So every word he said got dissected, every quote got analyzed, every bit of body language turned into a debate about his personality instead of his performance. Some fans loved it. They saw a competitor, a quarterback who wasn't afraid of the spotlight, a player who had the same kind of inner belief that the great ones always seem to have. But others saw something completely different. To them, Shedeur wasn't confident, he was disrespectful. They thought he was skipping steps, acting like he had already earned a starting job before proving himself in the league. And just like that, the divide grew bigger. Half the football world was rooting for him to succeed. The other half was waiting for the moment he failed so they could say, "See? We told you." And that kind of environment does something to a young quarterback, because suddenly you're not just playing against defenses on Sundays. You're playing against expectations, against narratives, against a storyline that's already been written about you before you've had a real chance to change it. Every incomplete pass becomes proof for the critics. Every interception becomes validation for the doubters. And every quiet performance gets interpreted as confirmation that the hype was never real in the first place. That's the pressure Shedeur Sanders walked into. Not just trying to win football games, but trying to fight a reputation that had already been decided by people who hadn't even seen him play yet. And the craziest part? The loudest critics were judging him before he even got a real chance to prove himself on the field. The moment finally came. Injuries, chaos, and sheer circumstance collided. And suddenly, the rookie who wasn't supposed to touch an NFL snap was standing under center. That's the thing about football. It doesn't care about expectations. It doesn't care if a quarterback was drafted in the 5th round or if he carries the weight of a legendary last name. When the moment arrives, it arrives. And you either rise or you disappear. For Shedeur Sanders, this was his chance to rise. Cleveland had been a storm of instability all season. Veteran Joe Flacco was struggling. The depth chart had collapsed under the weight of injuries. Dylan Gabriel, who had been the plan, went down with a concussion. And just like that, the spotlight shifted. From sideline chatter to national headlines, everyone's eyes turned to one rookie with a name everyone recognized, but with a resume still unproven at this level. And you could feel the energy change, even before the first snap. For fans, for teammates, for the city, it wasn't just another quarterback change. This was the moment we had been waiting for since draft night. When Shedeur stepped on the field, it was impossible not to notice something different. He had a calmness, a poise that belied his age. The chaos around him, the collapsing offensive line, the weak receiving core, the pressure from every defensive front didn't seem to shake him completely. He moved in the pocket like he knew exactly where he needed to go, scanning the field, making decisions quickly, and refusing to let hesitation dictate the offense. And for the first time all season, Cleveland's plays started to breathe. The ball wasn't just being handed off or thrown short. He began testing the defense, pushing the ball downfield, challenging coverage, and making plays that weren't designed but were absolutely necessary. Of course, it wasn't perfect. Far from it. There were interceptions, there were throws behind receivers. The speed of the NFL still forced him into mistakes that reminded everyone. Rookie mistakes don't disappear just because a player believes he belongs. But even through the turnovers, you could see what was different. The offense was alive. Drives lasted longer. The Browns were moving the chains instead of stalling. Explosive plays that had been absent for weeks returned. Suddenly, a team that had been stuck in mediocrity, a team that had been watching games slip away under poor quarterback play, looked like it was trying again. And that's the critical shift. Shedeur didn't come out and dominate the league in his first starts. He didn't immediately erase decades of quarterback uncertainty in Cleveland. But he did something Cleveland quarterbacks rarely accomplish. He gave the fan base hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, this was the moment a rookie could turn chaos into opportunity. Hope that the offense could be more than a collection of plays and stats. That it could be a team capable of fighting for wins, week after week. Hope that the Browns might finally be on the cusp of a quarterback who could stick, grow, and change the narrative. And when you're standing on that field in Cleveland, with the weight of history and expectation pressing down on you, giving your team hope that's no small feat. He wasn't dominating the league, but he was doing something even more important. He was proving he belonged, and for Cleveland fans, that was a reason to believe again. Now it all comes down to a decision that could define the Browns' future. The season has given us glimpses, flashes, and moments of hope, but the ultimate question is looming. What do you do with Shedeur Sanders? He's a rookie who entered a chaotic offense, carried the weight of expectations no 1 year old should have to handle, and still managed to show that he belongs in the conversation. And yet, the Browns find themselves at a crossroads. They have a high draft pick, multiple roster holes, and a quarterback who's not perfect, but who has proven he can survive the NFL's worst conditions. Historically, we've seen this pattern before. Teams in Cleveland's position often punt on their rookie, draft another quarterback, and restart the cycle from zero. It's safer. It's conventional. It's comfortable. But is that really fair to Shedeur? Did he fail? Or did he simply survive one of the most brutal offensive environments in professional football? Look at the context. A weak offensive line that can't give you consistent protection, receivers who struggle to separate, a run game that can't shoulder the pressure, coaching instability that leaves the quarterback on shifting ground every week. These aren't excuses, they're reality. And they make evaluating a quarterback like Shedeur anything but simple. Through it all, though, he's competed. He's stepped onto the field against defensive fronts built to exploit rookies, and he's made plays. He's shown poise under pressure, flashes of improvisational skill, and a willingness to take risks when the game demanded it. Those are the traits you can't teach overnight, and they're the traits that tell you there's a ceiling here that's still rising. Yes, he's made mistakes, turnovers, misreads, moments where NFL speed catches up with him. But every quarterback does, especially one thrown into a storm on day one. The difference is that Shedeur didn't fold. He fought. And sometimes in football, that's as important as any stat line. Cleveland fans should take note. This is more than a rookie season. It's a litmus test for what might finally break the Browns' cycle of quarterback instability. If the organization gives him the one thing, young quarterbacks almost never get stability. It changes everything. A consistent offensive line, reliable targets, clear coaching direction. Suddenly, those flashes become consistent production. Suddenly, the hope we felt in brief moments becomes a foundation for the future. And make no mistake, stability isn't just a luxury in the NFL. It's the difference between a career that fizzles and a career that defines a franchise. Maybe Shedeur Sanders isn't the finished product yet. Maybe he still has things to prove. But what we do know is this: he competed, he survived, and he showed that the talent is there. If the Browns commit to giving him the environment he deserves, this season won't be remembered as a hiccup. It could be the start of something far bigger than anyone expected. And if that happens, the quarterback who everyone doubted on draft night might end up being the one who finally changes Cleveland's story. A rookie who walked into chaos, stood tall, and refused to blink might just become the cornerstone this franchise has been searching for decades.